Now, to continue from where we stopped about cost of living in Ireland in different cities, I've mentioned this that it can vary depending on the city. It can vary depending on your personal lifestyle. It can vary, but generally there are things you might need to consider. For example, if you're living in Dublin, expect that your living costs in terms of accommodation could range from 1,000 to 1,200 to 2,000 euros. Your house rent could be 2,500 euros. It depends on what's in that house, how many number of rooms, and it depends on location and utilities. As mentioned, utilities could range from 100 to 150 euros every month. Now, this is the monthly cost that you might need to consider. If you buy groceries and stuff like that, you might need to consider that you will be spending about 300 to 400 euros, especially if you have a large family. It could be more than that, it could be less if it's just yourself. And you might need to consider because most of the supermarkets in Ireland they have this membership discount rate. You will need to apply to get their membership cards. The cards, when each time you make a purchase you scan the card before payment so that you can get points, so accumulated points over a period of time, over maybe a few months you get that as bonuses, and they send you vouchers that you can claim back at the stores. So you might want to watch out for things like that to reduce your expenses. So definitely, if you are in Dublin, if you want to eat out, dining out could cost you maybe 15 to 50 euros per meal. It depends on your personal lifestyle as well. You could find there are Afro-Asian shops if you are from African origin, Asian origin. Maybe you want to look out for cooked food. It could be maybe between 5 euros to 10 euros per meal. So if you eat out, maybe you are the type that likes snacks a lot, you might need to consider that, or you will be spending anything from 15 euros. So you want to consider that. Usually it's more affordable and cheaper to cook at home, than to eat out every time. It's more expensive to eat out. Then, in terms of public transportation, it depends on if your work is just walking distance away, or if you would have to take a bus, or you would have to take two buses, or it's in another county, or you are going to a location to sit for an exam, or you are going to a far area to do an adaptation program. So you need to consider the fact that public transportation might need to be included. So if you calculate that over a period of time, over a month, and then you can see, as mentioned, you can get leap cards for the buses that would give you discounted rates, and public buses are cheaper if you don't have a car of your own. Then in terms of gasoline, that is the fueling for the car. It's about 1.65 to 1.75 currently per liter. So to fill a car tank, that could cost you maybe 40 to 50 euros. That is if you have your own car. I mean, per filling of the car. So it depends how much you use, that will depend on the distance you actually travel, either to work or to school. You might go to church, you might go for programs, you might go for visiting, you might go for sightseeing and drive your car. So whatever you spend, for example, if you're living in this county and your workplace is like 25 to 40 minutes drive away, you would expect to fill up your tank like at least twice in a week, at least twice in a week. And that is like 40 to 50 euros twice every week, or once a week, depending on where you are traveling, where you are actually going to, once a week. And that is that on car. But if you're taking public transportation monthly, it might be more affordable and cheaper for you. But if you have small kids, families, and especially because most kids they close at different times, and you will need to be collecting them from schools and stuff like that, you will need flexibility. So you might need to get a car of your own. For public transportation for kids, there is from a certain age, from like 5 years, I think, to a certain age, there are children leap cards that is more affordable, than that the charge is way lesser, in cents, in few cents, than the adult leap cards. So that would be more affordable as well. Health insurance for yourself, it could be 50 euros to 150 euros. That is, if you are considering that anyway. If you work with the public or with hospitals, or insurance might already be included in the plan for your salary. So you may not need to consider that. If you're a spouse that is just coming in into the country, of spouse of a doctor, spouse of a nurse that is just coming in, and you will need maybe a few months to settle in or to get a job, and to renew your immigration, you will need your private medical insurance. So you will need to consider that as well. Then entertainment or leisure, maybe you want to go for sightseeing, you want to go for cinemas, that will be private anyway. That depends on your lifestyle or what you want exactly. Miscellaneous, like internet costs and other things that you need to do, other subscriptions, personal subscriptions, you might need to consider that. Could be anything from 100 to 150 or to 200 euros, depending on your personal lifestyle. That's total about 2,100 to 2,600 euros. If you are living, so I can just close. So this, I'm not going to put this. So if you are living in Dublin, you might need to spend 2,100 to 2,600 euros every month. That is like your budget. Now, this is where you want to come in. Like I mentioned, I have a video on tax rates in Ireland, and how to calculate tax rate and how to know what's left from your salary. Then you can watch that and understand what you have left, and how to reduce this cost would be your priority. How to reduce the cost would be your priority. So you might want to consider, oh, what am I going to cut first? Do I need to go for a shared accommodation first, just to stabilize, so I can slash this 1,002 into half, or maybe have 700 per month? Or groceries, how can I reduce my groceries? And dining out, you can cut that off. So everything you're cooking at home is already included in your shopping list, and so dining out might be cut off. And if you don't have your personal car, definitely gasoline for car is cut off. If you don't require health insurance, that is also taken out as well. If you are the type that entertainment is not your priority, you can also take that out as well. That is monthly cost of Dublin. Let's look at another city and see. For example, monthly cost of living in Galway, the expense living cost in Ireland per euros, like I mentioned. Accommodation in Galway is around 900 to 1,500. Utilities around 90 to 140 euros every month. You wouldn't need the water anymore, because I'm still going to explain more in relation to water. It's currently free for for every household. Groceries 300 to 400. That would depend on you. Dining out is always the same everywhere, but that would depend on you as well, what you eat. And public transportation is always regularized, like around the same as well. Health insurance, yeah, always around the same, but approximately the cost is reduced. If you're in another county, it's reduced in terms of accommodation. Yeah, so that would where your reduction would come in from. In another county, County Cork, accommodation could be anything around 1,000 to 1,800 euros. It could be more if it's like 3 bedroom flats, or if it's a standalone house, if it's 4 bedrooms, and if it's furnished, and it depends on other facilities, and either if bill is included or bill is not included. So groceries, utilities, you might need to consider those costs. Are you going to be eating out, or you're going to be cooking your own food and just keep everything in the fridge and just microwave the food when you want to leave the house or when you need it more? So you can cook over the weekend a significant portion, have them in containers, refrigerate them, and just take them to work and other things. Those might be more affordable to you. So in Cork, maybe around 1,900 to 2,500. Now, these are just paints that they are just average. They are just average. They don't really represent the exact cost. So they are just average for you to consider. So among the three cities we've considered, like Galway is more, it has the lowest range of monthly living cost. Um, well, according to this, it's like the cheaper city. Also, bear in mind that the figures are just approximate figures, like I mentioned. So things, exact cost would depend on your lifestyle, would depend on your choice of house. It would also depend on your personal preference. It would also depend on your personal preference. So you want to consider that as well. So as at the second quarter of 2023. So average rent in Ireland, let me see if I can expand this a bit so that everyone can actually see. So in Wicklow, it's about average rent cost. In Dublin, for example, it's about 2,307 euros. So average residential rent in Wicklow, which is another environment, another county, it's about 1,883. In Kildare, that is in another county, 1,801. Average rent in County Meath, 1,774. You can see all the counties and the prices and the cost averagely. That was taken from a survey in 2023. In County Louth, that's about 1,624. In Waterford, about 1,480. In County Westmeath, 1,476. In Galway, 1,438. In Carlow, 1,422. In Cork, 1,410. County Offaly, that's 1,399. And Limerick is the lowest, 1,393 average rent in euros. That was a survey that was taken last year. So when you are considering the fact that, well, when you coming into the country first, maybe your employer is based in Dublin, because you don't have a choice anyway. You want to come and work in another country, but you got a house in the capital, which is fine. You can come into the country, live and see. But eventually, later, if you consider moving out of that county where you are and you want to settle down in another county, or you are considering buying a house, or even settling or relocating to another county, another environment, you can consider the costs, the areas that are affordable, and you can see what you want to do in relation to that. So it's just an average, it's just an overview so that you can make the best decision. Now we're going to talk about the paperwork. The paperwork itself, like when you want to get a house in Ireland, to rent accommodation in Ireland, you want to make sure that your paperwork is correct. You want to prepare that correctly. For example, to apply for a rental property, if you just see an advert online, there are a number of documents that you would be required to provide. And I would recommend having that paperwork in advance and have it with you in case maybe if you are in Ireland already and they're asking you to go and view the property, then you can have it submitted. It can also be submitted to the agents via email so that you can immediately lodge your application as soon as just you find a favorite property. You can create a folder on your device and keep all those documents in so that immediately you see one, you can send immediately and you're not going to be looking for them. You're going to need a means of identification, like it could be your driver's license if you are in Ireland already. If you are not in Ireland, your international passport, um, previous rental references. You have a reference where you've been living. In fact, from your country where you've been living before, you can ask maybe a landlord to give you a reference letter to say, oh, this person has been living in my house from so and so date. There have been no issues. All my property have been intact. There hasn't been any record whereby my property was damaged or there was a record of noise or disturbance from other neighbors. You can just have a reference. Previous rental references will increase your chances of getting a job. Then the new employer, current employer, that is not that's an error. So the new, sorry now, the new employer, that is maybe you just got a job in Ireland and you want to work, tell your employer to give you a reference that you are working, or your contract could be as a proof to a landlord that you are coming. Your contract is enough. You can include your contract as a proof and just maybe one previous rental reference. And then because they also need to see your evidence of current employment and income. They need, if you are in Ireland already, the HR can give you a reference letter or a separate letter for accommodation purpose. You can request for that aside your contract, that, oh, to get accommodation, you need a backup letter to just say that, oh, you will be working with them, that they can help you because because if you get a letter from an Irish employer, that would increase your chances of getting that accommodation. That would increase your chances. But if you are just applying with no evidence, or in fact, you can state it in your application that, oh, you've got these letters as backup and you are ready, and you've got everything ready and you are ready to move in as soon as possible, they might consider you and then ask request for the document. So, and if you were to be in the country already, they want to go for viewing, You need to get all those evidences ready and go with them so that you can submit as fast as you can. Then another thing is, if you are looking for an accommodation in a high demand area, then those documents you can carry them along with you to viewing. You can carry them along with you to viewing so that you can be you can immediately lodge your application and beat the competition. You can immediately lodge your application and beat the competition. So you need that. So in this tutorial, I'm still going to show you an example of how to draft a message. It's a short message, I would say. I would not really say a letter. It's a short message, an accommodation message. How to capture the attention of the agents, letting agents, so that they can consider your application. So we're going to look into that, and we're going to also look at how to search appropriately, and we're going to use a sample to begin with.